Let's just wait. I think he's on another line. I think he will come back to me the soonest he finishes the call. But I should believe that they are finalizing the technicalities because by then the students are already there. Also, I just talked with them. They are saying they are having 10 minutes, and they probably begin at around 45 because, unlike the lecturers, this is a group of students who shall be in the same room. So we may say that maybe we'll start at 3:45. My apologies. Soon. So without wasting much of your time and without wasting much time, let me hand over to Professor Kanika Batra to continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for the invitation. And we surely appreciate this opportunity to meet students and faculty, and at least virtually, if not in person. And if you would not mind dropping a little bit about yourself in chat, that would give me a better idea of the audience I'm speaking to. Or if you don't want to do it now, you can do it later. So what I did was I prepared this presentation keeping in mind the Malawi University of Business and Applied Sciences. I am a humanities researcher who sometimes also works with social sciences methods, interdisciplinary methods in women and gender studies, and postcolonial studies. So my work is very different from the kind of work that you might be undertaking. But what I have found is that there are some common strategies of research, particularly in forms of academic writing, which you may be undertaking, such as proposals and dissertations. So you might be preparing your research proposals and submitting it to your exam committee or your supervisor, and then hoping that that proposal is accepted, and then that you will go into writing the dissertation, whether for an MBA or for a master's in science degree or for a PhD degree, whatever you are interested in. And so, keeping that in mind, what I'm offering is basically general advice, but I've tried to connect it to some topics in business and in the kind of research that you might be doing. Here are some basic features of proposals and dissertations. You all know this, but sometimes it helps to reiterate what we already know. So, for basically, if you're writing a proposal for research, you need a title for your research, and the title does not have to be 2 sentences long. It should ideally be between 5 and 10 words. A short title is always better. A short title also contains the keywords in your research, and we shall come to that in a while. The research should also have a topic which you can explain to your advisor or to other people. If somebody asks you, what are you researching on, you should be able to explain it. So you should have some kind of idea about the background work involved in that research, maybe a short paragraph by way of an introduction. So title, then background, and then of course you come to the research questions. Now, research questions are the questions that you will be addressing through the research, what questions you're hoping to answer through the research. Again, you don't have to include 10 questions. 10 is too much. Most good proposals have between 3 to 5 questions. Sometimes even 2 or 3 is enough if your questions are focused and directed. Another aspect of research proposals is research methods, and we shall go over these in detail, but I'm just introducing the basic features of a research proposal. And in order to arrive at the research questions and research methods, you have to do some reading. And that reading is usually background reading that you will then refer to in your research questions and research methods. You also have to collect data or information about the topic you are researching on, and that could be in the form of case studies or surveys or questionnaires or interview-based research. Can go to people and interview them, can circulate surveys online, can also do Zoom interviews if people are willing to meet on Zoom and are not available to meet in person, or if they live far away. Then, using all of these ideas, you will arrive at the structure of your dissertation. I do not know how long dissertations are supposed to be in Malawi at the School of Business and Applied Sciences, but at my university, dissertations are at least 200 pages. So if you are thinking of a dissertation, perhaps you can drop in chat the expected length of your dissertation, because I think the length of the dissertation varies depending on the institution that people belong to. At my institution, it's at least 200 pages, between 150. I mean, the shortest dissertation I've seen is 150 pages, and that's almost too short, because those 100 pages include a bibliography and a literature review and things like that. You also have to include, as part of the dissertation proposal, some evidence of the research that you'll be using. And that could be in the forms of references or a bibliography. There is a difference between a proposal and a dissertation. Of course, a proposal is a condensed template of a dissertation, as you know. Again, at my institution, The proposals are supposed to be between, I think, 20 to 30 pages. And I don't, can you see my screen, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to share again because I think it sort of switched slides on me. What slide is visible? The features of proposal and dissertations or something?
Yeah, the figures of your
Okay, well, I think what has happened is my screen has frozen, so that's what's happened. But I will try again. Just give me a minute. Okay, and now we should be. Yeah, that's the problem. The screen has frozen. Okay, it should be back now. I think you can see, right? Maybe somebody can tell me if you can see.
Yes, we got it.
Okay, cool. Now, okay. So I said we would take the constituents of the visitation proposal one step at a time, and I want to begin with the idea of themes, titles, and keywords. As you see on the slide, these are some of the themes which I found while looking at the dissertations which have been submitted to at your university. These are pretty concise. As you can see, none of them are really long titles. Micro, small, and medium enterprises and market vending, corporate governance and agricultural cooperatives. These are themes you might have already thought of in your own research. But you can see that they include keywords which are very specific. To take the third one, if we sorry, my screen is giving me a lot of trouble, which I'm trying to remedy, but it doesn't seem to be working. So these are small titles, but effective titles. Is there something here which resonates with you in your own research that you might be thinking of? Are you thinking around the same lines? Perhaps. Even if you're not, I think this is a good template to have. The idea that whatever you are researching on should be very clear from the title of your dissertation proposal. That is, in general, an effective idea to keep in mind when thinking of your research. Okay, so if you have the theme and the title and the keywords already sorted out, then you need background research. You need to provide a little bit of background about existing research on the topic. I think what happens is that sometimes we think we have this earth-shaking idea about a topic, and then we do some additional research and we discover that people have already done research on it. So we don't really have to begin from scratch. We can use some of the ideas which people have already expressed through their own research, previous research, in the form of articles or case studies or existing data. So let us think of a core theme from one of the previous slides that I shared. This was corporate governance and agricultural cooperatives. If we are thinking of corporate governance and agricultural cooperatives in Malawi, then you probably need to look at a few databases to find out what research on this topic already exists. And databases, as we all know, are searchable directories of journals and other scholarly publications. And here you will find peer-reviewed journal articles. If you are not sure of what you are looking for, I would suggest databases. Some of these are listed here, but also one database which I did not list here, which is OpenAlex, which indexes both local research as well as international research. Many of these databases that I've listed here, these are international, sort of Western-oriented databases. OpenAlex, by contrast, I think also indexes local Africa-based or global South-based research. So definitely check OpenAlex as well. The problem with OpenAlex is that it does not, very often the articles are not open access. Some of them are, but not all of them. Google Scholar is your basic search engine. You know, everybody uses Google Scholar. Scopus is a more specialized search engine. Your library may or may not subscribe to it, but it's very good for looking at abstracts on a particular topic or a theme that you are researching. Then there are some very specific databases to business and management and topics like those. One is, of course, the EBSCO database, Business Source Complete. There is ProQuest One Business and ABI Inform Global. Now, these are all subscription databases, so your library may or may not subscribe to these. I do not know how many of these databases your library subscribes to, but definitely check them out. If for nothing else, then at least for information about already existing scholarship on certain topics. And I've provided the links here, so I'm not going to go and open these links, but you can on your own time look at these and see if any of them are useful. But certainly the whole process of undertaking research for a proposal and for a dissertation begins with doing some background research. Nobody comes up with an idea for research overnight and then decides to scribble it down and present it to their committee members or their advisor. That's not how research operates, right? We all know this. You all know this. You are all good students. You know the process. But sometimes it also is important to be reminded of the process. Okay, and this is a resource which I talk to people about. Many of the people that I talk to are not familiar with this resource. Last week, I was giving a talk on academic writing in the form of journal articles to some students and colleagues from the University of Malawi, and I asked them if they knew about this. This is STAR, which is the special terms for authors and researchers. It's a Taylor and Francis initiative that provide 50 free articles to students and researchers in resource-constrained countries. And Malawi is an eligible STAR country, so you can sign up. You can sign up at Taylor and Francis online. You can get what are called tokens, and these tokens allow you to download 50 articles. 50 articles is enough to begin research, folks. So this is not something which should be taken lightly. This is a resource you have, so please use it. At this point, I'm going to stop and ask questions, and also ask if anybody here was already familiar with the star axis before today's presentation. You can type in chat if you want, or you can unmute yourself. Or any questions you have till this point for me? I know some people are walking with their phones because I can see them. Okay, nobody has any questions? So everything is crystal clear. Should I stop now then? No, I'm kidding. I will continue, and maybe you will have more questions. Yeah. That's if my... Okay. So you remember that topic that we looked at earlier, this one, corporate governance and agricultural cooperatives in Malawi. So what I did was I went into some of these databases that I mentioned, and I came up with 4 references, 4 articles or research sources which connect to corporate governance and agricultural cooperatives in Malawi. If this is your topic, then you have to begin by looking for sources. And you can see, other than this one source, which is from 2006, which is a discussion paper, I think presented at the University of London or somewhere in UK. Other than this, all of these are pretty recent sources, right? From 2023 to 2025. These are this is recent research. So when you're looking for research, I think on your topic that you are thinking of developing into a proposal or a dissertation, it is good to look at research which has been undertaken, which is foundational in that field. Maybe somebody has done a very important study of agricultural cooperatives in Malawi, which was published in, I don't know, 1960 or 1970. But those conditions have changed, right? That source might still be useful. That source published 50 or 60 years ago still might be useful, but updating that research with more recent information is equally important. Research is a process of synthesizing information which contributes to your own contribution, your own intervention in the field. And one of the ways to do that is to look at previous research which people have undertaken so that you can enter into a conversation. You can say, here are a few articles about corporate governance and agricultural cooperatives in Malawi. I am building on these scholars' work, but I am proposing something a little different from what has already been done before. You are stepping into a conversation through your research proposal and then eventually through your dissertation. Okay, this is a dissertation which I found on the website of your university. This is the assessment of the effect of village savings and loan associations on the performance of small and medium enterprises in Lilongwe district, Malawi, by Simon Chowinga. Maybe some of you know him or not. It doesn't matter. The point is that I found the abstract very well written. The abstract of the dissertation was quite well written. And what I did was I pulled out sections of the abstract. It's a long, detailed abstract. I pulled out sections and we'll discuss it step by step. So here's what Mr. Chavinga is doing. He is saying SMEs or small and medium enterprises are confronted with numerous challenges. Notable among them, as documented in the literature. So he's done his research. Mr. Chavinga has already done his research and looked at literature about small and medium enterprises in Malawi. And one challenge that he's found there is limited access to formal financing. All the literature that he has consulted says there is limited access to formal financing for small and medium enterprises. And so what he is doing is assessing the effect of village savings and loan associations on the performance of small and medium enterprises in the Lilongwe district. And he is adopting a mixed method approach. So you can see already this is a very clear abstract. I really like it. That and then of course he has a conclusion as well. He concludes that VSLA loans and savings have a positive effect on the performance of small and medium enterprises. So two or three things stand out. It is a long title. It is, but it's a clear title. Usually, as I said, titles are short. But this one is long because it is specific. It's talking about village savings and loan associations, which in itself is a long acronym, and it's talking about small and medium enterprises, and it's being very specific and pointing out the district where this study was conducted. Okay, these are my questions for you. If you're looking for research methods, and we'll come to that in a while, the kinds of research methods people have adopted, but broadly business research methods and types, also scientific research methods and types are quantitative research methods and qualitative research methods. What methods are you likely to use in your own research is something to think about. And again, if you like, you can drop some ideas in chat and we can talk about it or not, whatever works for you. The thing to remember is that we often think we will use one kind of research method, but we might end up discovering that we are combining 2 or 3 different kinds of research methods. So for instance, you could have surveys, you could circulate surveys to your target research sample, which might be a group of people in a village or in a town. But sometimes circulating surveys may not yield as many results as you have thought it might yield. In that case, then surveys are sort of insufficient. And you can try again, of course, you can try resending the surveys again and again, but if they're not yielding too many responses, it might be a good idea to go and conduct interviews in person, go and talk to people. And there, as and when you go and talk to people, you can also hand out the surveys on the ground, as it were. So you're doing two things. You are sort of augmenting your survey responses, but you're also going and talking to people and conducting qualitative research in the form of interviews, right? So research methods often evolve as we proceed with our research. When you are writing the proposal, you may not have a clear idea of your research methods. As you write your proposal, some clarity is going to emerge. But when you get to the stage of writing the dissertation, you might discover that some of the previous methods that you had thought were suitable are not quite working out. So you might have to switch out the research methods or augment them or supplement them with other forms of research. Ask yourself always, why are you using these research methods? You know, what is the use of these specific research methods to your research. And if you can't come up with a convincing answer, then that method is probably not the best method that you should be using. Then switch it out, turn to another method. Actually, there is a response from Amina. Amina says she would use both depending on your topic of research because it requires interviewing people, but also doing a survey research at the same time. That's a very good idea, Amina. Actually, what you're doing is you're covering your bases, Amina. You are making sure that if you're circulating the surveys and the responses are not as expected, then you are also sort of supplementing it with interviews. So you're not leaving anything to chance by just circulating a survey. Surveys can be circulated in various ways. Of course, you can email people, but you can also circulate surveys over social media. And then WhatsApp or other forms of text messaging. But those kinds of surveys are premised on digital connectivity. And sometimes people don't have the kind of digital literacy or the kind of digital connectivity that we assume everybody has because we are of a different generation, right? Amina, you are of a different generation than even me. And so then I think it is a good idea to keep in mind which kind of people are being targeted, which age group, which education level, which forms of digital connectivity, and then determine what the responses are likely to be. So Amina stepped up and had a very good comment. Does anybody have any other comment about the kind of research methods they're likely to use? Nobody wants to use case studies? I'm really surprised. I thought in business research, case studies were super important. Well, case studies could be background information. There's a lot to learn from case studies. If a particular business has already done some research, then using that case study might actually give you ideas. Okay, you can keep typing your answers in Zoom chat or not. That's up to you. But I will move on and I will show you something really funny in a while. This is a description of the research methods of the dissertation that I shared, this one. Simon Chovinga's research on village savings and loan associations on the performance of SMBs. This sort of research, description of research, it's there in his abstract. And I really like the fact that not only is the abstract clear about the goals and the background, but also about the research methods. So he says in the research methods that a sample size of 666 was determined using the formula by Cochrane, which is background research, of which 333 were SMEs whose owners were members of the village saving and loan associations, and 333 were non-VSLA members. So this is a pretty balanced data set, right? If indeed 666 people were surveyed, then this is taking into account that half of the people surveyed were members of the village saving and loan associations and the other half were not. So he did this in the form of semi-structured questionnaires. 596 responses were received. That's pretty good 596 is pretty good. I think he did well. I think by choosing to target a large number of people, he ensured the accuracy of the surveys. Sort of a good percentage of the people responded, 89%, which is highly unusual. So I think this researcher must have really pushed the surveys hard. Maybe that involved sending the surveys repeatedly, or maybe selecting the people who were more responsive to surveys, or going and building personal connections with the people that were potentially going to be surveyed later on. Systematic random sampling method was used in selecting the respondents, so it wasn't sort of targeted sampling, it was random sampling, which is good because it captures a large cross section of the people, of people who have varying level of interests in small and medium enterprises. Data was analyzed using this software Stata 14 with correlation analysis, independent sample t-test, and multiple linear regression analysis. Don't ask me what these mean. I have a very basic understanding of these, but I indicate this to point out that the statistical analysis of the data is as important as the data collected. And one has to be very clear and transparent about what software is being used to analyze the data using what parameters, right? That's part of ethical data collection and data reporting. Okay, this is the funny graphic I was talking about. Research develops and evolves. When you are conceptualizing your research, you think of it as this big streamlined vehicle on the top, right? Very smooth and shiny and clean and neat looking. But at the end of the PhD, when you start doing the research and you start writing, you may discover the data is all messy. The writing is all messy, like a battered up old truck here that you see at the bottom. So the top is what we like to think our dissertation and research is going to be, and the bottom is the actual result. And that is okay. That is perfectly okay, because completing your dissertation proposal and then writing your dissertation will not be the only thing you will do. You will finish the dissertation and then you will refine the results and hopefully publish more out of it. So that ultimately it may not look completely like this picture on the top, but it will resemble something quite similar, right? The whole idea of research and developing, somebody put a question, or I think Rich is doing ChatGPT answers for us. Okay. Research develops and evolves, and sometimes research may not work out the way you have planned it to or conceptualized it. Right. Research methods may need to shift. I already said if the surveys don't work, then you might need to resort to questionnaire, interviews. Data may prove unsatisfactory. I mean, you might find that the data which you have collected may not be completely fitting the research that you want to conduct, and in which case then alternative forms of data collection are required. The writing may need work. You might find you are having a huge amount of problem analyzing the data. Then seek help. Find people who can help you make sense of that data. Sometimes your advisor, your dissertation supervisor is the best person for that. Sometimes it might be a fellow student or a friend who has more experience with data analysis than you do. So find people who can help you. The writing, if it needs work, then find trusted people who can read your writing to make sure that it's clear and concise and effective. Timelines may also shift. You may have thought you will finish your data collection in 3 months. you might discover it's taking you 6 months, and that's okay. Don't compromise on the research. Okay, this is the timeline. When you write a dissertation proposal, you have to provide a timeline of completion. This is an indication of how long it takes to research. If you begin the research today, if you read and discuss and talk about your topic with your advisor today, then it might be next year. By next year, you can begin your research. Because there are all these steps in between: finalizing the dissertation topic, drafting the research questions, meeting your advisor, figuring out research methods, submitting the ethics paperwork. You may need consent in order to conduct survey or interview-based research. Then you begin the data collection after you've received consent through IRB or ethics paperwork. And then finally, you can begin the research a few months after you started thinking about it. So you can see the timeline, right? It's a long timeline. So patience is super important. Then you finally start writing the dissertation. Please, 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 when you're writing the dissertation, file and save the data in folders or on the cloud at a place where you can easily find it later. So don't forget where you have saved your data. Document the research sources carefully. If you're consulting secondary sources, you need to document them really carefully. Save your notes, whatever notes you're making. Sometimes you might need to go back to those notes. AI usage, and Rich has already talked about AI usage, but I'm going to say it again. AI usage should be limited to generating ideas and/or editing. You should not be using AI to write the dissertation because people will find out and it will reflect very poorly on you. It's okay to use AI to generate information in the initial stages. It's not okay to trust AI that information is entirely accurate or relevant to what you're doing. Please meet your advisor regularly. I have students who disappear for 6 months, and then I'm wondering whether they are actually doing the research or just, I don't know, going out partying and having a good time. And so don't leave your advisor guessing, because they also have time constraints and they need to see your work in a timely fashion. Leave time for formatting and editing your dissertation. That always takes more time. And then finally schedule a defense after you have finished your research and written out your dissertation in as satisfactory a manner as you like. And that is all I have to say. If you learned anything, tell me what you learned. And my feelings won't be offended if you tell me that you haven't learned anything. But tell me what you learned, ask me questions, ask specific advice on specific kinds of research. If I can offer any, I will certainly do so. Thank you so much for listening. No questions? Oh my God, that's a first. I think somebody has a question, but you might need to type it out, or you can say it if yeah, and everyone else should mute their microphones, please, so that the person speaking is audible. Rich, can you mute yours?
Okay, I wanted to ask a question. You talked about sometimes the students are not available to meet with their supervisors, but we have had cases where the students are available to meet their supervisors, but the supervisors are not available. So what can the students do, or what should we do in that case?
Yeah, that is a difficult question, isn't it? What I would do first of all is email very politely and ask if they're available at a time to meet. And if you don't receive a response to the email, then maybe a week later email again, you know, and sort of keep trying to contact your supervisor. If your supervisor is completely unresponsive, maybe 6 months have gone by and they have not responded and they are not willing to meet, then it may be time to think of changing your supervisor. You know, that's what I would do. I mean, I guess people are very busy, all the time. Particularly faculty are super busy all the time. But I think 6 months is enough time to give anybody, even if they're super busy, to meet them. And in the meantime, while you're waiting for your supervisor to respond, don't stop the work. Keep on doing the work. Sometimes you can also email them and say, I'm having trouble figuring out my research methods. I'd really like to meet with you, and sort of mark it urgent or something like that. I don't know how often that happens. Okay. I know Rich and I are very responsive to our students. We don't leave our students hanging. In fact, sometimes students leave us hanging, because they disappear on us for 6 months or 1 year. And then we are chasing them and emailing them and saying, hey, what's happening? Are you making progress in your dissertation, and so on. But the reverse is a difficult situation, right? Because you want to be respectful to your supervisor, but also you want to move forward with your work, right? And I think if 6 months go by and your supervisor is not responsive, at that point, I think it's time to think of another supervisor. That's what I would do. But again, I don't know if this is possible in the Malawian system or not, because in India, my friends who researching in India, they say that it's pretty common for people not to meet their supervisors for a year. But then that if you need help, where do you go? If you don't meet your supervisor. So it's a tricky question, and I've tried to answer it as best as I can, and I hope it's helpful. Yes, Rich, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I can't emphasize enough, keep moving, right? Don't let somebody else necessarily dictate your schedule, right? And so keep moving forward. There's always something else you can be working on. And also, we can find a lot of our answers to the models that have come before us. So if there is a repository, I believe there is, I saw it through Malawi's site, of previously approved dissertations. The way in which you need to do something for your dissertation has probably already been done in some capacity. And so you can find a lot of answers through other dissertations that have been approved. So definitely look there. Here's one piece of advice too that is a little bit different, which is from my experience. I had a colleague who I went to school with, whose dissertation committee didn't review his work until right before defending, and the problem was with his methodology. And one of the faculty members who finally reviewed his work way too late, like a year too late, said, I don't like your methodology, right? And so, this idea of having a mixed methods approach or validating your work in some way is critical to many dissertations. If you don't have your full committee, especially your dissertations chair, approval on your methods, that's a problem. That's something you should get before collecting the data, because you could be spending a lot of time and effort that you have to redo. Because if you've moved forward and there's something fundamentally wrong with that, you can't get around it except to redo it. So make sure that your committee, your dissertation chair especially, approves the methods that you are using.
And the other, I mean, I want to emphasize what Rich is saying. If your dissertation chair is not available or advisor is not available, surely there's somebody in the department who you can talk to and get some advice, because all professors have a pretty good idea of research methods. Now, it may be that another person's advice may not be to the liking of your dissertation advisor, but if your dissertation advisor is not getting back to you, I would say find somebody you can trust, whether it's a fellow student or a senior student who is well versed in research methods, or another professor or a colleague, and seek their help. But again, keep moving, and keep trying to get in touch with your dissertation advisor. Sooner or later, they will respond. And if they don't respond, then after a certain time, you have the right to switch or change your dissertation advisor to somebody who is likely to be more helpful than they are. But having no idea of how the Malawian system works, this is the advice we can offer. Sometimes it's not easy or even possible to change the dissertation advisor. So if that is the case, then I think you have to find the best way to work with your dissertation advisor and kind of, uh, uh, you know, uh, pursue them till they respond to your emails or your queries. Other questions? The other thing is, please be very polite in your emails, to your dissertation advisor. Don't say things like, "You haven't responded to my email in 5 months." Things like that are going to make people angry. So you all know this, but sometimes when people are not responding, we lose our temper, right? And we say things over email that we regret later on. So don't do that. Be very polite. Other questions?
Yes. Here in Malawi, mostly the research that are done by undergraduates, especially those who are in fourth year and the fifth year, based on the programs. I think their ideas, they are not much implemented, maybe in the country policies, depending on different policies, and also the research. But I observed that the research which are done by maybe some research centers on the maybe some doctors who are doing PhDs, they are much considered. And also maybe sometimes they are published in media platforms, but not really those research which are done by these undergraduate students. And because of that, their ideas are not implemented in our country, in Malawi. I don't know, the case there may be different, but here that's the case. So I just wanted you to give us maybe your understanding, and you will also have some comments to according to what I have said.
Yes, thank you, Boy, for that, Boy Malasa, for that comment. You are absolutely right. Undergraduate research is more rudimentary. It's more basic research. When students are undergraduates, they are often learning how to do research. So whatever they come up with is not likely to be as polished or as refined as a PhD researcher. So you are absolutely right. Undergraduate research is not very prominent. Uh, um, in Malawi or in the United States or anywhere in the world, because undergrads are learning to be researchers, and we have to understand that there's a difference of level. The undergrads don't know as much as the postgraduate students do. Postgraduate students have been through 2 or 3 extra years of training, and so they know more, right? But it's a good idea to get undergrads started on the process of research, at least to explain to them what the process of research is. So whatever they produce is better than doing no research, right? So there's a great emphasis on undergrad research in the United States. In fact, some of our undergrads get funding. It's called undergrad research funding, small funding to undertake some research. But that research is often not publishable, and it is often not groundbreaking as postgraduate research is. So keeping that in mind is really important. That postgraduate research will be cited in policy documents, in government policies, and on media, etc. And undergrad research, unless it's really, really pioneering research, it's not likely to get the same kind of publicity. Sometimes, however, undergrads might surprise you. There might be this brilliant undergraduate who might undertake a research project, which is perhaps even better than a postgraduate research project. But that happens very, very rarely, mostly because when we encourage undergrad research, we are teaching the undergrads how to do the research, not necessarily counting on them making any earth-shaking or fundamental discoveries. Does that answer your question?
Yes. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. Other.
For me, undergraduate students are synthesizing, and graduate students are creating new knowledge, new ways of thinking. And to underline what Dr. Batra was saying, there are a lot of publishing opportunities for both, of course, undergraduates and graduates. In the chat, we have shared one source that is an open source publishing venue for undergraduate students at our university, and people all over the world are publishing through it. And if you're interested, that is there, or you could share it with other students. That one's particularly for undergraduate work.
Well, this is your chance to ask questions, those of you who might have questions.
Dr. Batra and I work in an English department, and in English, we're fairly theoretical. In business, you guys are much more practical. And if it were me, I would keep the end in mind. The end for you is getting a job, right? Ultimately, you want to get a job. And so ways in which you can get a job include producing work that you can talk about when you're interviewing, when you are submitting applications. And that work should solve problems that your potential employer is working on, right? So if you want to work for a certain kind of company or sector, industry, think about the problems that they are solving. And maybe that's something that in a related way you can tackle in your dissertation research, because it will serve you well down the road when you try to get a job, right? So think very practically about the dissertation work. There will be a lot of theory involved, but there will be a practical aspect. And if you explore that in a real way, I encourage my students to look at job ads, not because they're going to be applying for those jobs yet. They're not ready to. Maybe they're 2 years or 3 years away. But knowing how to align their current work to prepare for like jobs in 2 to 3 years, because it may take that long to build up your resume to do that. And the first place to start is your research with your dissertation. So think about, looking at keeping the end in mind, which is getting a job.
Then the other thing is that I assumed that you were all business students, but some of you science students, science and technology students, and not business students? Because if you are science and technology students, you might have a different kind of research methodology you need, which is more lab-based or experiment-based. And that's different because labs or experimentation is usually under the supervision of a faculty member. No student can afford to build their own lab. The labs are usually funded by the advisors, and students work in those labs. So if you are a science and technology student, then your research methods and also your interaction with your advisor is necessarily of a different kind than if you are a humanities student or a business student. Other questions?
I have a question. I would like to know from you all what you're working on. What are your subjects? Can you put that into the chat, or can you unmute and tell us?
Are you all currently thinking of your dissertation topics or not quite sure? But if you are, just unmute yourself and talk.
Maybe since there are few, we may just mention names and see if they are still here. Maybe Amina, what course are you pursuing, and maybe you have any idea in the dissertation you want to write?
Okay. I'm studying business communication, and we are currently working on our research project because we started last semester. We are working on a research project on the effectiveness of TikTok advertising on consumer, it should be on consumer perceptions, like that.
Great.
That's excellent. The impact of TikTok on consumer preferences and expectations, that's wonderful. So how are you collecting your data from TikTok users?
Yes, we'll collect data from TikTok users,
Yeah.
but mostly we are focusing on those who do business around the school campus, like here, Dubai. So that's our target area.
Okay, thank you. That's wonderful. Well, while you are welcome to share, if you have no questions, we will not keep you any longer. So those who want to log off can log off, or those who want to stay can ask questions. Either is fine by us.
Okay, I think we must say now I think we have come to the end of the presentation. I need to thank all people who is here, who has been very instrumental in organizing this. Thank you so much. We don't take it for granted. And for the students, I think there's an email that has been shared in the chat. I don't know if it has already been shared, that you can use for further questions. I don't know, maybe before we close, maybe for Professor Silich and Kanika, I may have a word or two, then we can close.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Robert, what did you say?
I said in case you have a word or two before we close.
Oh, well, we want to thank all of you for being here. I know this was organized at short notice, and we especially want to thank Robert for arranging this. Robert, thank you so much. It was very good interacting with your students and colleagues and learning a little bit more about what they are doing in Malawi in terms of research and avenues to seek grant funding. So we have enjoyed our interaction. And again, thank you, Robert, for facilitating this. It was a lot of work on your part, and we really, really appreciate it. So thanks again. And please join me, all of you who are still here, in thanking Robert, who was the mover and the shaker behind this event.
Thank you so much. With those remarks, I think we can put the meeting to a close. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.